In His grace, God gave us a sequential end-time timeline that was hidden in the Psalms for thousands of years, waiting to be discovered. It has now been revealed here at the last minutes of the church age. This channel discusses end-time prophecy from the unique perspective of the encrypted timeline in the Psalms. If you want to know where we are on the timeline, please subscribe and take some time to watch the other videos on this channel. Also, please consider purchasing a copy of Encrypted, Unlocking the Timeline Revelation in the Psalms. Not only will it help you to better understand the time we're living in, but it will also be a very important book to leave behind. God bless you.
You've gone over Genesis in the flood part. You've done a timeline on that, haven't you?
Actually, no.
No?
It's been on my list to do because when you read that,
Chapter 7.
You can just see, like, oh my goodness, there's so much in there. And I have some pages in one of my notebooks about it, and I've just never gone back. It just seems like I get diverted onto something else, and I've never gone back to it yet. I know other people have, so I don't know. And there are a lot of dates in there, you know. But
the second one.
if I just had some time, like this week, you know, a lot of things just didn't go right at all.
Yeah.
And you know, I have to make a living. This week was particularly bad. A lot of times I will just sacrifice everything and keep studying and writing to put stuff together, and you know, but yeah, this week I couldn't. So unfortunately, I just don't really. So let me just say this. What I want to do is do a part 3 of Lazarus. Because remember I talked about, you know, a few different things that I could have gone this direction, that direction. And I knew that there's more to the traveling that Jesus did before his crucifixion. Sort of like what we discovered in 2 Kings chapter 2 for Elijah and Elisha. Well, it's there. And so I have several pages that I worked on this week in my notebook. That's why I've got it out here today. Like 3 or 4 pages of notes, just kind of following his travels and then piecing the things together and what it means and all this kind of stuff, and kind of a timeline. But I wasn't able to work on it enough to finish anything, and you know, financially I couldn't do it, so it is what it is. So what I thought we would do tonight is just talk. If there's anything you want to talk about, if there's you know, stuff going on in the world right now. Of course, there's always something going on that's crazy, either Israel or now the U.S. You know, we had that the shooting in Washington D.C. and
oh yeah, you said that.
So yeah, there's always something to talk about, but I wasn't able to prepare anything, again, because I've got to work. And I've always hoped that I would be able to do this instead of having to do all the car stuff, but you know, we're just not there, so just have to do what I have to do.
So where do you find most of your information? Like, do you just Google a lot of it, or do you have a certain website that you go to help you find some of this stuff? Or look up, like, different word meanings, or...
No, I like BibleGateway.com.
Bible Gateway.
Yeah. I mean, it's basically, I try to stay in... So have you been to BibleGateway.com or Bible Hub? I'm not so crazy about Bible Hub.
No, I haven't been there.
Basically, it's just the Bible online, and you can search. And also, you can... well, it's Bible Hub that has the interlinear Hebrew and Greek. Bible Gateway might have it. I don't know. I always, for some reason, end up in Bible Hub for that part of it. So I'm bouncing back and forth. And as I'm getting older with my eyesight, it's gotten really hard to read a paper Bible for me. And my eyes get really, really tired. And so what I do is I have a big computer screen in my office. I mean, relatively big anyway. And so I can see it a lot better. And so that's why I use the computer now more than... And it's why I use notebooks. Because normally, you know, it looks so cool when you've got your old Bible and you just got notes and highlighter and all this stuff throughout. But in the last, I don't know, however many years, for me, I just can't see it well enough, and I strain my eyes so much. Even with glasses, they start getting really tired. So instead of writing in my Bible and highlighting stuff nowadays, I just keep these notebooks. Go to the Dollar Tree, buy one of these cheap notebooks, and that's what I do. I've got stacks of them now that are full, and this is the latest one, or one of them anyway.
Almost done with it too.
Yeah. So.
I have 4 different ones I've started.
Oh, really? Studies on your own? Yeah. Looking at different numbers and seeing patterns and things like
So
that.
I'll pick up a couple of $1.25 still notebooks.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, nothing's $1 anymore. It's all $1.25 or up. But
which calendar do you think? I don't know that right. Because the Babylonian calendar is only 360, or year. I'm sorry, it's year, not calendar, but year is only 360 days.
Well, the Bible is typically based on 300, like prophetically it's based on 360-day years. The Babylonian, so when the Hebrews came out, the ones that did, of Babylon, they adopted a lot of their ways, and so that's where their calendar started getting messed up. I think they probably went from the calendar that was given to Moses and Aaron, right? Which is the calendar that the Essenes evidently continue to use.
Okay.
But the Hebrews, the Israelites that came out of Babylonian captivity, they adopted a lot of the Babylonian ways, and that's why you've got the first month of the year is Abib or Aviv. It should be, okay, biblically it should be, but yet they call it Nisan. So these other names that are on the current Hallel calendar in Israel, and I have none of this in front of me, so if I say anything stupid or wrong, if I mix something up, forgive me. I didn't know this question was going to come up tonight. But the current Hallel calendar, all of those month names are like Babylonian and pagan kind of names. They weren't originally, Hebrew names. So
is Chet a Hebrew one?
Yeah, well, that's not a month. That's a letter. That's the number 8.
Oh, never mind. Okay.
Yeah. So, you've heard of like last week I think we talked about the Hellenized version of a Hebrew word or an Aramaic or Hellenistic, that comes from Greek. So there are different cultures and different religious beliefs really that got filtered through Israel as well. In Babylon, and then when the Greeks ruled over that area of Israel, back with, Antiochus Epiphanes. Okay, he was a Greek, and that's where a lot of stuff got mixed up too, back during the Maccabean War, basically, and that's where even last week too we talked about the Jesus went to the Feast of Dedication. Well, that started after the Maccabean War when Antiochus Epiphanes desecrated the temple, and then they had to clean out the temple and all that. So that's what the Feast of Dedication was about. So it was in celebration of that cleansing of the temple. So anyway, I don't know if I answered your question at all.
Well, yes and no. Well, which?
So if you're asking what calendar I believe God is actually using, okay, I kind of thought that's where you were going. Honestly, he's using all of them, because God isn't, he's not a one-track God. He's not in one box. I believe fully, after studying all this stuff and writing this crazy book, and I believe he's operating on all of the calendars. He's meeting us where we are on our calendar. Of course, he knew that this is so. He's relaying information and has timing For us, for Israel, he knows what calendar, he knew from before time began what calendar they would be on, this Hillel calendar. He knows that, he knew that the Dead Sea Scrolls would be discovered in 1947, and then that the calendar would come out of that, and then there's more information in that calendar. So I don't believe he's on one calendar. I believe he's on all of those calendars. He has stuff encrypted in all of them. So if you're asking, like, for the timeline, you know, like in
Not really.
2024, you know, that's kind of according to the timeline in the Psalms, that's when the rapture, I mean, it's clearly there in verse 7 of Psalm 124. And then it's also there, I forget which verse, but it's in Psalm 76, which falls, and it's it's for the same year, roughly, like a little off.
Because with all the different calendars, I know there's, you know, like, or the years, like there's 360 days that the Babylonians go by, or did. We have 365. I mean, everything that, like I said, everything is just either 360, 365, 364. So,
Well, okay, so prophetically, we know that we're looking for certain, like, 42 months, that's 42 30-day months, which would equal what? 360, not 365. Somebody check me on my math, I think so.
no, that's
Yeah.
right.
So, yeah, so since we're talking about Bible prophecy, so prophetically, when the Bible's talking about a year or a month or whatever, you're looking at a complete circle of 360. So
Okay.
we're not talking about sun and moon, because the moon, of course, would be 352 or 4 or something. I forget exactly how many, but if you're talking about a solar year, that would be more like, what is it, 364 point something. That's why there has to be a leap year and adjustments and all that kind of stuff. So since Israel now, they go by a lunar calendar, which came from the Babylonians and I think also the Greeks with Antiochus Epiphanes and stuff. So they brought that out of that culture and basically walked away from the calendar that God had given Moses and Aaron. But honestly, bless you, it makes sense, because to know if you look at the biblical record of what God gave to Moses and Aaron, okay, you have to be in the land of Israel for you to know what the first day of the year is. So like when the grain is in the head, you have to be in Israel. So it's all about being in the land. And if you're not in the land, well, now you don't really know when to start the new year. According to the Essene calendar, the year always started on a 4th day. There's a number 4, right? Which would, for us, I guess we'd call that Wednesday. And so the year doesn't start any other day. Every year starts on a Wednesday, and that kept it real neat and tidy. So every year you know that on this certain day is the feast or whatever. It doesn't move around. But see, now it moves around because they have, what is it, like every, I forget how many years on the Hebrew calendar or the Jewish calendar, they have to add like a month, a leap month. Not a leap day or whatever, but a whole month, because they get that far off over time. And again, check me on those numbers. I'm not exactly positive right offhand, but so it gets all mixed up. So there are some years in Israel where they have 13 months instead of 12 months in the year. And I think we just went through that like last year.
Yeah.
So, but back to what I was saying about 2024 appeared to be, I mean, it's there. The war, God shows up, he defeats the enemy, not Israel, and then the rapture happens. That pattern shows up throughout the Bible. Now that we've found that pattern, you see it everywhere. But, so according to the Psalms, we have the sort of the structure now. We see the sequence of events through the tribulation. It's encrypted in the Psalms. But it seems like that should have started in 2024, 2025. This whole year really should have been like the start of the tribulation period, but it wasn't. So, do we just throw the whole thing out like the baby with the bathwater? I don't think so, because like we always talked about, God could hit a pause, you know. He's known to do that. He's done it at least 3 times. We talked about a couple weeks ago in the Bible where he's done exactly that. And so I'm just going to be totally honest with you. When I was writing the book and I was putting all this together, there was one date that I am I guess I wouldn't say I'm 100% on, but I'm very convinced of. Based on biblical prophetic patterns, I believe that the Antichrist will be 30 years old when he stands in the temple and declares that he's God. That comes from David, that comes from Joseph, that comes from Jesus, okay? It's a thing. You piece that together by, the other one is Gilgamesh or Nimrod. But you don't get that from the Bible either. You get that from, like, the book of Jasher, I think. It says he was 30 years old. So in that part of the Bible where it says that, he became a Gibborim, in other words, he became a mighty man. Well, what does that mean? He became one. He did a lot of working out with weights. And that's not what it's saying.
No.
I believe genetically, somehow, around 30 years old, or maybe earlier, I don't know, he became genetically a Gibborim, a Nephilim, in other words. A mighty man, but they called the Nephilim were also called Gibborim. So it's a little confusing. None of this was ever supposed to be black and white.
No.
People will ask, well, show me that in the Bible. It's in types and shadows. It's in patterns. It's mostly in patterns. You can see all of this stuff in patterns throughout the Bible. But if you don't have your eyes open and you don't have your ears open, that's why Jesus said, for those who have eyes to see and ears to hear, you won't see it. You're just reading the surface level. And we're at someone commented last week, about the 4 levels. The rabbis talk about this. It's, we talked about it one night. Remember,
Yeah.
I had that? It's basically likened to a garden, and there's these 4 levels, and the deepest level is the Sod, or S-O-D, I think it is, level. It's Pardes is the word in Hebrew. And so the 4th level is that Sod level, and that's where you're like really digging deep, and that's kind of, the bad thing is people talk about, like rabbis and stuff, a certain sect of them will talk about that's kind of where the mystical and all that. And I don't believe in all that mystical stuff. So, but did the Lord put very important things encrypted throughout His Word, mysteries for us to decode in these last days? Absolutely, because He told us so. Mm-hmm. In many places, Jeremiah 33:3, Proverbs 25:2. Where else? Others, anyway. So there are mysteries. Even Paul, he says, I tell you a mystery. So he had figured out some stuff too. But not everything was meant to be revealed in Paul's time. According to Daniel 12, there's another one.
Yeah.
It's the last generation, our generation, this last time when these things would begin to be really unsealed. And that's the purpose of this massive gathering that we have here tonight, because this is what we talk about, right? But I am hoping, really, really hoping that over the next week, financially, I'll just say it, I can swing it to be able to finish the Lazarus thing, the 3rd part, because from what I have pieced together in my notes and how this is interconnected with so many other things that I didn't even know last week, okay? I really want to finish this, and I really want to put it together, hopefully for next Friday. But again, I'm at a point where my wife's in Alabama, I'm here, our lives are torn apart right now. I've got a man's got to do what a man's got to do. Thank you, John Wayne. Because I got to do what I got to do, and my first thing right now has to be earn enough money to get this place closed and get out of here and put my family back together. Because right now we're just, we're all messed up.
Scattered.
Yeah, so spending
Yeah.
Thanksgiving yesterday with my daughter and my son and my grandchildren was awesome. Okay. But with my wife not being here, it was still felt kind of empty. And then she and I were talking about how, so there's that emptiness, but also, her parents both recently passed away. And they were always kind of the central hub of everything here in
Yeah.
California. They were the patriarch and the matriarch, and everybody came together at their place.
Yep.
And so that's different. And for her, that's very hurtful. That's painful,
Yeah.
because it's her parents. And then also she's over there with my mom, and I'm here in California, which seems really backwards, by the way.
That's
It
a
should,
little.
you'd think it'd be the other way around, but so yeah, it's we're in a tricky time right now, and I wish I could say that things are going just smashingly here, but they're not. It seems like I'm taking one step forward and two steps back. Everything I work on is like, really, Lord? I mean, like, I'm trying to get things done quicker, not just like, and now I gotta wait for parts, and this broke, and that bolt stripped, and it's just like, will this ever end? I know that He makes beauty from ashes. I know something good's gonna come of this. I have faith, and maybe He's slowing me down because something bad would happen. I don't know. I don't know His reasoning, but He's definitely allowing things to slow down and for things to be very, very tight financially right now. So, but been here before. He always makes a way. We'll get through it. I know that. Is it, is everything going according to my plan? No, not at all. But here we are. So, long story short, I am hoping to get this done for next week. I apologize for not having it done for this week. And we'll just see what happens. I don't know.
So you were talking about a date that you were really stuck on, or that you've hung on to, that you came up with in the book.
Mm-hmm.
What is that?
In the comments last week, a lot of people picked up on, like, the Feast of Dedication, Hanukkah. And I guess there may be somebody else out there saying, oh, the rapture could happen on Hanukkah, and giving some reasons why. So I think people are picking up on that, and they're thinking, oh, yay. But the timeline that I'm seeing, this is just between us, because I've not put this together yet, but this is what I'm seeing. The timeline that was hidden in this whole Lazarus story, no, the rapture is not at the Feast of Dedication. It's not in December. That, him going to Jerusalem, represents his death. Remember, it was in Jerusalem at that time they wanted to kill him, and he then went to the Bethany on the other side of the Jordan.
Uh-huh.
That represents him going to heaven. Bethany is heaven. Okay, all of these things stand for something else. So Jerusalem is Jerusalem in this case. They wanted to kill him. Eventually they did kill him, but that's what it stands for. Then he went to Bethany on the other side of the Jordan. Where is he now? Like we talk about, like, crossing the Jordan, right? So he's on the other side of the Jordan, which is like, think about it in relationship to, they're talking about with aliens now and stuff like that, that they're interdimensional.
Yeah.
So the Jordan represents the veil between our physical realm and that spiritual realm. So this was his travels. I'm cutting all this out. This is just for us. Jerusalem represents his death, place of his death. Then he went to Bethany on the other side of the Jordan, okay? That was his ascension, because that Bethany, there was an ascension that happened there. That was Elijah. Then he comes back when he hears that his friend died, right? He waits 2 days, so that's the 2,000 years. He returns, but remember, he doesn't go into Bethany. He doesn't go knocking on their door. He meets them outside. That represents the air. We'll meet him in the air, correct? Yeah. Okay. But he then goes to Bethany. Now, we don't actually know that absolutely, because the Bible doesn't say that he went from the grave where he called Lazarus out and then went to their house. But we do see that he found out while he was there being Bethany, that they want to kill him. And so that's when he went to, so he was at Bethany. That's when he went to Ephraim. Okay. Ephraim represents, remember, nobody knows this. This is what we've been talking about, but it's been a while since we pulled another one of these pattern things out. That Jesus isn't just coming back once at the rapture and then at the end, he's coming back in the middle. Ephraim represents the middle. Ephraim means fruitful in the land of my suffering. God has always wanted fruitfulness from his people Israel. And they haven't been fruitful. But the remnant that will be in the refuge, that's the fruit God has been waiting for from Israel. And it literally means fruitful in the land of my suffering. Well, okay, that came from Egypt, but now remember, what does the book of Revelation do? It likens Israel in the last days to Egypt. It's all interconnected. So he goes to Ephraim for a reason. Now look it up right now, not right now, but sometime. No one knows where Ephraim is. Like scholars have tried to figure out where is this place that he went, Ephraim, a city. Because see, Ephraim was a region, but it was never a city. There's no city named Ephraim. But it says he went to the city or the town named Ephraim. It doesn't exist. So where was he? So they don't know where Ephraim is, but there it is in John chapter 11, 12. Okay? So then, where does he go after Ephraim? He goes back to heaven, Bethany. So remember when we talked about this pattern before? It was his ascension went to heaven. He comes back at the rapture. Okay? Yeah. That's one Bethany to another Bethany, but meets in the air first. Then he goes to, then he comes back, so he's in heaven again. Now he comes back to move the Israelites into the refuge. That's Zechariah chapter 14. And then from there, he goes back to heaven. So if you're looking at this in the Song of Songs, it talks like, oh, here he comes, but he doesn't set foot on the earth. Like he's not here. He's like on the other side of the door. Well, the door is like the Jordan River.
Yeah. So
it's the veil between him and heaven, that dimension, and our dimension. So so he goes from back to heaven after Ephraim. He goes to Bethany. And then from Bethany, he goes to Jerusalem. Well, where's he coming back to? Where's he going to set up his reign from? Jerusalem. It follows the exact same pattern.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and so you get this from, like I said, the Song of Songs. But now we've got these names. And so Bethany is house of figs. Well, we're in the fig tree generation. What are figs? It's fruit. Mm-hmm. It's all about fruit. And then you've got Ephraim, which means fruitful in the land of suffering. Well, that's going to be the refuge. That's the fruitful of Israel. And then you go to Romans chapter 11, and Paul says that all of Israel will be saved. Well, yeah, all of Israel that's still left, because 2/3 of them, we know from Zechariah 13, will be killed. The remaining is going to be led into the refuge. That third, that's the fruitful third right there that will remain in the refuge until Jesus comes back. Those are the ones that are going to cry out, "Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord." They're finally going to get it. That's the Proverbs 31 woman. That's Israel. That's the fruitful Israel. Look up Proverbs 31. That woman, what is she? She's fruitful.
Yeah.
Right? It's all about bearing fruit. That's what he always wanted. That's why Jesus, and back in Isaiah, Israel is likened to a garden, a vineyard. Mm-hmm. But what happens is they're never fruitful. Well, now finally they're going to believe in God's Son and they're going to bear fruit. Finally. So, that's all of this, right, and all this crazy stuff that I've got on here. That's what I discovered over the week. but I just never got to actually start typing anything up. And there's a lot of stuff that I didn't really. I'll just tell you guys this. So this is so crazy. Remember when? So if you follow this, the part where the rapture is, the air, okay, which is where he didn't come all the way into Bethany yet. What does it say? I drew a little line down here. John 11:12. Jesus lifted up his eyes, and that's when he called out Lazarus. What have we always said? That lifting up your eyes or lifting your head, that's just like John did in Revelation chapter 4. I lifted my eyes.
You said John 11, right? Verse 12?
Yeah.
What Bible are you reading from?
Oh, it's right here. It's 41.
41.
41.
I was just about to say, it was because I
Yeah.
seen on 43 that he had just spoke with a loud voice.
Yeah, no, this is probably NIV, which I don't like, but it says, so they took away the stone, then Jesus looked up, so other translations say lifted up his eyes or
Yeah.
lifted up his head.
Yours said lifted up his
This,
eyes.
I never use the NIV. I use New King James or the Orthodox Jewish Bible most of the time. I also think that WEB is good, the World English Bible.
Oh, I haven't. Not that one.
Well, I'm glad that we got that straight so you can change your notes.
Yeah, I did. I do things like that to myself a lot of times. I'll be like doing something really fast and I'll write the wrong thing and I'll come back to study. I'm like,
That doesn't seem right.
it's not right. Like, where did I get that from?
Yeah, because I'm sitting there looking at that I'm like, this isn't making any sense.
Yeah, so when you're reading the NIV in this, like you can easily just read right past, Jesus looked and said blah, 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 because it's using different softer words. They're not like drawing any attention to it at all. But when it says, like then Jesus lifted up his eyes and said or whatever, okay, that's different.
Yeah.
But that's why I don't like the NIV. It just tones everything down. And then they also do a lot of things like when it says, like, for instance, like anything that's been, like Benaha Elohim or something like that, which means sons of God or Elohim, it'll put children. Because they don't, they try to make it genderless. But why are you changing it? It says sons. Absolutely sons. It doesn't say women or girls. It says sons. Don't change God's word. That's why I don't like the NIV. But, so, the pattern then is Jerusalem at death. Then he goes to Bethany beyond the Jordan, which is ascension. Then he comes back in between, meets in the air. Then he goes to Bethany again, which represents heaven, but it's a different Bethany. Okay, then he goes from there to Ephraim, which I believe is the middle of the tribulation. Anyway, but back to what your question was, the date. Mm-hmm. It's spring, just like the Song of Songs. It absolutely is springtime. And so I see this pattern. Something could very well happen around Christmas time this year, because he went to the Feast of Dedication. Something in this pattern may occur. I don't know what. Maybe that's when we first get our first glimpse of the Antichrist, because remember, Proverbs 25:7, I think, talks about the rapture encrypted, and then it says, whom you have seen. And I'm pretty sure that's referring to the Antichrist.
25:7?
Yeah, Proverbs 25, I think it's verse 7. Of course.
There we go again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doesn't it say whom you've seen?
Whom your eyes have seen.
Yeah. So that's physically seen. When it talks about your eyes, that's not spiritually, that's you've actually seen this person. So,
And for better it is that it be said unto you, come up hither, than that you should be put lower in the presence of the prince whom your eyes have seen.
there's the prince, just like just like Daniel talks about.
So
The prince that's to come.
So when we see him, do you think we'll know that it's him?
I think if we have eyes to see and ears to hear, we can figure it out. I think a lot of us will. Most of the world won't. They'll think that's stupid. But I think we will know. But so, here's what I was saying earlier. Now that we've gotten way sidetracked. There was one date that I never could really make work in. Because, I wasn't, when I put the book together, for instance, I wasn't just looking at the pattern that was laid out in the Psalms. And then, you can go back to J.R. Church's book and everything. Mm-hmm. And how it's a year-for-year thing. Well, all of that seemed to work really well. Except for one thing that wasn't in J.R. Church's book, and this was something totally separate. It was my recognition, and other people have recognized this too. I'm sure Chuck Missler, people like that, recognize the same pattern, that the number 30 for becoming a messianic figure is important, okay? And we have that pattern in the Bible, and also outside of the Bible for Nimrod. So you have David, Joseph, Jesus, and also way back when, Nimrod. Okay, all 30 years old. That is a very, very specific pattern. So, is the Antichrist going to be 30 years old? I think so. Because he's going to follow in that. God put that pattern in there for a reason. And if you dig a little bit, you can find Nimrod, the connection with Nimrod, Gilgamesh, which also connects to the Antichrist. So I think absolutely, and I also believe that the enemy knows that he needs to be 30 years old. And I think that's why, remember, we did a whole teaching where you've got the two, I forget what they're called, but like in the heavens, the crosses in August, September time frame of 1999. Plus there was the solar eclipse in 1999. Plus you go back to the news article, this is all off the top of my head, sorry, but the news article about Nostradamus and how they did a seance, and the demon who they thought was Nostradamus, but of course we know it's not Nostradamus, it's a demon speaking, explained Nostradamus's quatrain that said that this king of terror was going to come down, and it actually gave a year, which most of his things never gave times. But this one gave a year, which equated to 1999. 7th month. Well, 7th month, because our calendar's different, that could be the 9th month. So I said in my book, anywhere from the 7th month to the 9th month, so you're really looking at all summer. And then you had these really interesting things happen during the summer of 1999. The solar eclipse that centered itself over Romania. Remember, we did that whole teaching now about how the 7 churches of Revelation, chapter 2 and 3, point to Romania. They point exactly to, and I know I'm using the wrong word, but the epicenter of that solar eclipse is where they point to. Like where that solar eclipse lasted the longest, happened right over Romania. Yeah. And I just don't think you can make that up. That's so beyond coincidence. And that happened in 1999. So, I was looking at it like this, to get back to the numbers. So, Israel was born in 1948. We all know that. May 14, 1948. But 1999 is 51 years from there. But it's Psalm 50 in the Psalms of Asaph, that's the dislocated Antichrist. And in Psalm 50 is interesting because it's an inverted view of the tribulation period. If you take it upside down, it gives the sequence. And there are 6 verses in Psalm 50 that speaks directly to the Antichrist, okay? Yeah. But it's Psalm 50, not 51. Okay, that's what never made sense to me. And so I thought, well, Nostradamus was probably just off a year or whatever. But then when you get to the sequence in like 2028, 2029, he would be 30 in 2029. Okay? Almost 2030. Because it'd be the summer of 2029. If he was born or fabricated or whatever, because I think he's a genetic, I think he's a Nephilim basically. He's a genetic modified being.
Person, yeah.
And he may show up like they're going to think he's, oh, look, he's getting out of a spaceship or something. I have no idea. But somehow he's going to like show up and quickly be the man. I also believe that when you go back to the book of Enoch, you see there's this pattern there of what did the Watchers give to mankind to kind of gain favor and control, to be able to take the wives and do the genetic thing that they did. They gave them secret knowledge that God was not ready for man to have. Okay, what do you think is going to happen again? Is that a pattern? I was listening to a rabbi last week talking about how they know they're in the age of the Messiah. The Messiah's coming soon, and they're looking at all of man's technological advances, and they're saying that the Antichrist, well, they're not saying the Antichrist, that their Mashiach is going to come, and he's going to make all this stuff like next level, because he's going to be smart, and he's going to do all this, and all of this technology, we're going to, lengthen life, and he was going down this list, and it all has to do with like ancient wisdom, but future wisdom that this Antichrist is going to bring, and he's going to make Israel like this great, powerful nation that's going to be able to basically be a light in the world. They all want Israel to be this light to the world. They believe that's what they're supposed to be, and that their Messiah is going to enable them to do that through his knowledge and wisdom and ability and all this kind. So all of this technology is going to all come together. It's going to make Israel this great, powerful nation. I can already see all of that. It's all being set up right now. They're looking for that right now. So now think about it. So now this guy shows up in the wake of Ezekiel 38:39 and the rapture. The world's in chaos. He shows up and he's, I don't know, again, he rises out of the sea. People say, oh, that's the sea of people. I don't believe that's the sea of people. That's not nations. Because I've said it before why I don't believe that. I'm not going to go into it tonight. But you also see that little cloud in 2 Kings. First Kings or 2 Kings? I'll have to go back and look at it again. But anyway, you see that little cloud rising out of the sea, like the little horn and all that. It's all connected, okay? I forgot what I was going to say. My mind is smoking right now. I have no idea where I was going with that. Anyway, I know I'm just babbling because I have nothing to do tonight. I just have all these thoughts jumbled up in my head. Because all week as I'm working on stuff, I'm thinking about all of this. I can't really turn it off. But I believe he's going to be 30 years old. Oh yeah, sorry. So he's going to be 30 years old. If he was born under those signs, the summer of 1999, okay, then he would be 30 in the summer of 2029. That's almost 2030. So it seems like the middle. Let me think about that. So, because again, I've been thinking about this a lot, but I haven't had time to really put pen to paper and kind of figure all this out, make a timeline. But basically, okay, so 2028 into 2029 is when Israel will turn, they'll be 20 until, if we're going by May 14th, 1948, okay, there have been those that have suggested that Israel didn't actually become a nation, and I'm a little iffy on this because in Isaiah it says that, can a nation be born in a day, basically. So that happened May 14th, 1948. That didn't happen in March of 1949. But God's ways are higher than our ways, right? So it could be that he measures their time starting in March of 1949 because that's when they actually seated their government. By that time, I believe they had won the war against the Arabs, all the Arab nations that attacked them on basically March 14, 15 of 1948. They had won the war, and they seated their government in March, and so could be, I don't know, that's when it started. So if you start from that date, then you get 50 years later, and you are in 2029.
You know what? That makes sense because just because all the paperwork started in 1948, but they didn't put their government into place.
Yeah.
That
They had an
makes a lot of
interim.
sense.
They had an
Yeah.
interim government seat, kind of, I guess you could say, seated that, you know, but it was a wartime thing.
Yeah.
And so when they actually completed that and they voted and actually put in the real people to start their government, that was March of 1949. What I'm saying is, we're not God. We look at it and we go, well, I think it's May 14, 1948. But God, He didn't make this easy. He didn't intend for this to be easy. So maybe He was actually starting from the 1949 date. If you add 50 years to that, you're at 1999. Then we had all those crazy things happen in the heavens for the birth, the arrival announcement for the satanic world, basically, that the Antichrist was birthed, whatever.
Yeah.
You can go to, you can go to Daniel chapter 2, you know, where it talks about that the seed will not cleave and all this.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of it. But also that quatrain from Nostradamus, it doesn't just talk about one, it also talks about Mars. And Mars is the god of war in Greek or Roman, I forget which one. Anyway. But when the demon told the seance idiots what all that meant, it wasn't just that one person was going to arrive, okay? It was going to be an army.
And that's where this
A
is.
genetically modified, genetically created army. So then you look at that and you think, yeah, you know, is that possible? Well, do you really think that we know everything that they can do? When you go back to Jurassic Park in 1993, you know, at that point they already knew this was plausible. Well, 1993 is before 1999.
Mm-hmm.
So, plus you have to add to it the satanic aspect of what they could do. Again, the thing that the Watchers, the fallen angels, brought to mankind was knowledge, secret knowledge. They didn't, so let's say that before 1999, through the, you know, what we called UFO and all that stuff, right? UAPs, what do you want to call it now? They were given governments knowledge. Because I believe they were. I mean, look at CERN. You think that man really made that, like came up with all this stuff? No.
Mm-hmm.
I think our government's been working with these demons and they've been giving us knowledge, and then in turn we're helping them get all this established. So I think all of this is interconnected. Long story short, the one date in all of this that didn't make sense, and so I always just made it a range, like 1998/1999. But realistically, I kept struggling with 1990. How is that possible? Because 1948, add 50 years, you're 1998, not almost to the end of 1999. So, but now if you look at it and you think, okay, well, it still does work out, but not with the 1948 date, okay? We're beyond that now. So that worked if the rapture started, or if the rapture happened in 2024, as the pattern shows in the Psalms, and then the tribulation started in 2025 this year, but I mean, we're pretty much at the end of our year. And you can fudge a little and say, well, because of the turn of the century and the zeros and whatever, you can fudge a little this way and that way. But the bottom line is the Antichrist will only be 30 when it's 2029, almost 2030.
So you think the rapture is possibly not going to happen until 2029?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I
Oh.
think that will be the middle of the tribulation.
Oh, I thought
Yeah.
it had to be
30.
33.
No, that's the end of the tribulation.
Jesus started his ministry
At 30.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, I know that, but I thought. Anyways.
Yeah, no, he would be 30 the day, which would be the middle of the tribulation, when he stands in the temple and declares that he's God, okay?
Uh-huh.
That's the day he would be 30 years old.
Because-
Well, maybe not on that day, but he'll be
Well,
30 years
yeah.
old when that happens.
Because he'll stand in the temple because of the fact that he'll also be shot, wounded,
Hmm.
and everybody will see him stand in the temple claiming that, and he'll all stupid.
Well, that may be when he gets shot. I could see that happening.
Oh, at that point?
Yeah. Because see, even the rabbis, when they read this in Hebrew and they have their own, writings about it, they see him stand, because they don't read the book of Revelation.
Yeah.
But they know that their Mashiach one day is going to stand, not, it doesn't say in, it says, in their writings, it says he will stand on the temple. So just picture this scene, because they know he's not God, so he can't be, and he's not a Levite, okay? He's a Jew, so he's from the line of Judah.
So like he'll be, yeah.
He can't be in the Holy of Holies.
No.
But he stand on it, on top of it, and like declare, look at my mighty work, look what I've done, I've rebuilt Israel, and I've given you your temple. Now I'm going to declare that I am God, I am better than God. And then maybe some really Orthodox Jew, I don't know. I mean, that's just, that's a thought. These are the things I think about while I'm supposed to be working all day. Could be. I don't know. I mean, these are just fun things to ponder. So we don't really know all of these details, but somehow it's going to happen. So I think he'll be 30. That's in 2029. Israel will still be 80. Okay, they turn 81. Then, according to the 1948 date, they would turn 81 in May of 2029. But if we go by, and I'm not trying to like just move stuff around to make it all fit.
Yeah.
But it makes
I'm just
sense.
looking at it, trying to figure out, okay, God, I know you didn't want this to be easy, but I know you want us to know the season we're in. Give or take a year here, we're in the season. We didn't miss it. I believe that it's soon, and according to the Song of Songs and then some of the more recent research that I've done, which I'm not going to talk that much about tonight, springtime, rapture, seems to be what God is saying. Now, I have always thought, you go back to the unfulfilled festivals, right? So there's out of 7, 4 have been fulfilled, 3 have not. Okay, so it stands to reason that the Feast of Trumpets would be, and there's a lot of symbolism that falls into that too for the rapture, but it stands to reason that that would be the rapture. But of course that's in the fall, not in the spring. Just because that makes logical sense doesn't mean that that's the way God has it planned, okay? Because again, his ways are higher than our ways. His thoughts higher than ours. So we can't put him in a box. It could be that when Jesus returns, he fulfills those last 3 the way he did the first 3 in one single week. He fulfilled those 3 in 1 week. He may come back and fulfill the final 3 in 1 week's time.
But
I don't know.
Isn't their fall over there different than ours?
Their what?
Their fall?
Yeah, over in Israel, isn't
You mean their spring?
aren't we off? They're weather-wise, aren't we?
No, because they're in the northern hemisphere. So
Oh, okay.
it's similar to here. Well, maybe not necessarily California, but because we got a weird weather here. Lots of different weather patterns and
Because I know
micro weather and all that kind of stuff here.
so springtime over there would be roughly our spring.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
As well.
Yeah. So when you read the Song of Songs in chapter 2, which is where the rapture is, chapter 1 is not the rapture. Remember, there are 8 chapters in the Song of Songs. Chapter 1 is Jesus in heaven with the saints that have gone before us. Mm-hmm. Like, let's say that's the 2,000 year period of time. Okay. Chapter 2 is where the rapture happens. Well, actually, chapter 1 and the beginning of chapter 2 is in heaven. True. And then you see the rapture happen where it starts talking about spring and the doves and all that kind of stuff. That's where the rapture happens. Come away with me, my dove, and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. And then,
because doves don't, yeah.
I'm just going to put this out there as a little tickle, but basically, you get to the verse in chapter 2 that talks about in the cleft of the rock, and then go back to Moses in the cleft of the rock, right? he actually meets the Lord. Now, he doesn't see him face to face, but he meets the Lord. And who put him in the cleft of the rock?
The Lord had to.
Yeah, he did. Moses didn't climb up into the
No.
cleft. God told him to stand on this rock, stand on the rock,
Yeah.
and then he took him and put him over there. Well, and then go to with the disciple Philip, remember, with the eunuch, and how he was he baptized the eunuch in the river.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then what happened? He disappeared. The eunuch's like, where'd he go? And then he appears somewhere else. He was raptured horizontally. Well, I don't think the Lord came down with like this big mighty hand and like picked up Moses from the rock and said, okay, like I picture like you know, the old King Kong movie with the girl, and she's like this little thing in his hand, like, okay, I'm going to put you over here in the cleft. I don't think it was like that. I think he was raptured from this rock
To.
the cleft of the rock. And I think that all ties in with what we're studying right here in Lazarus. There are so many connections here, it's beyond belief. So, will I finish this by next week? I hope so, but I doubt it because my life,
Yeah.
I've got to
I've
got to earn money
Yeah.
right
No,
now.
we-
It's just the
we
reality
get
of
that.
my life. So,
But this is good too.
yeah, no, it's good to just kind of chat sometimes because I don't have. It's not that I couldn't have people to talk to about this kind of stuff throughout the week. I don't have time to have conversations like this. There are people that I need to email back. There are people I need to call. I would love to. I'm so taxed right now. I can't. It's unfortunate. What I want to do, I can't do, unfortunately.
No feeling.
But so I think the spring now is I'm having to make adjustments
Well,
here. So, you know, before I would have said no, it's absolutely in the fall. But the reality is we just like you could say, like, if somebody says no, science is absolute, well, they're morons. Because scientists learn stuff all the time and they have to keep moving
Yeah.
their understanding based on the most current information. Well, as the Lord, I believe, has led me through this, I'm learning more and more and more and more. And now I'm seeing a bigger picture. Like Paul said, we see dimly, you know, then we'll see more in full. I'm paraphrasing, obviously. And I'm not saying I'm Paul
No, I
or
don't.
anything like that. But the more I dig and study and the more the Lord shows me these interconnections, the bigger the picture and the more clear the picture becomes. And I'm not saying that it's this spring, but
It's a
I hope
spring.
so. Because if it's not this spring, then we are, I think, outside of the window of the 30 and the 80 for Israel. Remember, at 80 they fly away. That's Psalm 90. There are other reasons for. There's lots of. The 80 pattern is over and over. So, I do believe that Israel, in God's way of calculating their rebirth, okay, whether that's 48 or 49 or 50, I don't know. But they will be 80 years old in God's eyes. Maybe not in our eyes. I don't know. Because we're not God. And I do believe the Antichrist will be 30 years old. So again, there's that one date that didn't quite fit. It always seemed like it was a year off. But now it seems like it fits. Because we've kind of passed the first dates, which should have been in 2024 for the rapture. Now we're in the end of 2025. And I think if we get past, I hate to say this, but if we get past like the spring of 2026, if the pause button continues, right? I'm just using that old analogy. If we get past the spring of 2026 into the summer of 2026, then a lot of these dates start to disappear again. And then pretty soon, you know, we're looking at like, okay, well, there's really no way they can be 80. Like, that doesn't make any sense anymore. And therefore, you know, the 77 for Jacob doesn't really mean anything. And the 84 for Jacob or Hannah from Luke chapter 2, like those things just kind of start to disappear and not have any meaning. That's not to say that then God couldn't shine a light on something like, oh wow, I can't believe I didn't see that before and now it makes sense. That could happen. But from what we've established and we know now, and we see all these patterns, it's really one pattern that we see repeated over and over. We're getting to the point where it has to be really soon. Then when you look at the state of the world, Israel is becoming the cup of trembling and the stumbling block and all this, because the nations are being divided over Israel right now.
Yeah.
And you see, like the New Testament talks about people are crazy, like, and division and just the hatefulness, and the guy sets this girl on fire, and then the stabbing on the,
Oh my goodness.
just everything's just crazy. I mean, people are just possessed, and I think we flooded out. I'll just speak for our nation. We flooded our nation with demons because we've let everything into our. And you tell me that wasn't a plan? It was a plan.
Oh yeah.
And I don't think it was just like the devil's plan. I think there's bigger. I'm not saying it's bigger than that, but he was using people, whether they realize it or not, to implement all of this. And but you have to also understand that the devil's very smart. So let's just say, okay, let's talk about America. Let's flood America with all of these immigrants. Let's take now it's really out in the open that all of these Afghan, like 79,000 Afghan, refugees that were completely unvetted. Mm-hmm. Most of them were completely unvetted. They have no papers. They don't have anything. Come on in. So don't you know that there is an element of our government that existed at the time under President Biden that knew all you got to do is let these people in. They're already wound up. We know we don't have to force them to do something bad. They're going to do it on their own. You let enough of them in here and you're going to create chaos. And then what's going to happen? What's the next step? So now what's happening is people are going to start crying out, you got to get rid of these people, okay? Well, how do we know who they are? We've got to take more of your rights. We've got to get you special IDs, maybe digital ID, maybe even put it intravenously in you so we know who you are, so we can separate you from the bad guys. You see where this goes?
Yeah.
It's a hop, skip, and a jump to all of us willfully handing over our rights to get rid of these evil people. And I still believe that the Muslims were created to be the whipping boys. Because again, think about the Antichrist. Who can make war against him? He's got to have somebody to go to war with, right? Mm-hmm. Well, he's not going to go to war with the Muslims because he's a Jew. He has to reestablish the Davidic kingdom in Israel. So he has to have someone to go to war against. Who better than the Ishmaelites, than the Arabs, than the Muslims, the Muslim world. So that's not to say that there won't be a Muslim type of Antichrist during this time, because remember, who did we have in Jeremiah? We had that Ishmael who shows up and kills 80, and all the numbers were there. So that could very well be the guy from Syria, maybe, the guy that is a terrorist, but he puts a suit on and everybody's like, oh, he's okay now. It's like, are we really that stupid? Yeah. No, he's look, he cleaned himself up, and he's not wearing camos anymore. He doesn't have an AK-47 in his hand, so he must be okay. Yeah. We're gonna shake his hand and we're gonna deal with him now. What? That's so stupid. But see, the more you realize how stupid all of this is, the more you can kind of see that this is all a setup. I'm not saying that the Trump administration is in on the setup, but maybe arrogance fools them.
The road of the spirit of the Antichrist light out.
Yeah, the spirit of the Antichrist is alive and well today. And I believe the Antichrist physically is alive and well today. I believe, how old would he be now? Like 27-ish, if he was born in 99? And I believe that this person is pulling the strings from behind the scenes somewhere. I believe the World Economic Forum and all of these, Club of Rome and all these different groups, they're all dancing to his tune. He's getting his wisdom from the true dragon. But yeah, no, he's alive and well, and all of this. So there is a timeline, and I believe we're getting into the last. Like I always said, in my life, I've always seen God as the God of last minute miracles.
Yeah.
Like it's never like I don't get the miracle early in the process. It's not like the money that I need next month shows up this month, and I'm like, oh man, I'm skating along now. I'm okay.
Yeah.
No, it's always not just next month that it shows up, but it'll be like 7 days late. And like I'm trying to figure out, Lord, what are we going to do? Because now like this is all a mess. But then it works out somehow. He makes it's a miracle.
Yeah.
He makes it work out. But it's always last minute or even after the last minute. And I think that has been the pattern in my life, so that I will wake up and understand that's what we're looking at right now. But we're in the season and it's coming soon, and I'm looking more towards like springtime of this year. Sorry, I wish I could say that I think it's around Christmas time,
Well,
but I think we're going to make it through Christmas this year.
Well, it says there in the Bible, don't, pray that his return's not during winter.
Yeah,
So spring makes sense.
yeah.
That means we don't have to move.
Well, the return that he was talking about, though, that would be the middle of the tribulation.
Oh, is that the middle?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's when they're fleeing out of
Oh,
Judea
yeah.
into the refuge. So that's the middle of the
Right,
tribulation. And I don't think
That's
it
your
will
guess.
be in winter, because I think it's encoded.
Yeah.
Like, did anyone pray for that it won't be? Well, I have. I prayed for them, the people that will experience that it won't be in wintertime. So I think because he said to pray about it, and people have prayed about it, that it won't be in wintertime. Because he doesn't want those. You can pick this up in various chapters of the book of Isaiah also. They, that remnant, Romans chapter 11, they will be saved. So I think they will have energy. Even the lame will make it. I think it's going to be totally supernatural. So I don't think that the way Jesus described it, possibly being in winter or whatever, I don't think that's going to happen, because he's going to show his goodness. So anyway, I don't know. Anything else? We're just rambling tonight. I think it's kind of fun. And I might be crazy. I might be just like totally off in a lot of this stuff. This is just me really thinking out loud, thinking through a lot of this stuff, because that's what I do. I'm not saying that I'm right. I just think that this is the way it's looking today as I look at the timeline and the patterns, and throughout God's word, how he sort of established this same scenario over and over and over. This is what I see. But God is God, and he's sovereign. He can do whatever he wants to. So
But the springtime makes sense because that, the March of 1949, it just makes sense.
yeah,
I mean, everything
Well-
was signed in, 1948, May 14th, but if they waited for whatever reasons to start the government in March of 1949,
Well, it wouldn't be so much that they waited, right? It's just
Well,
getting the
Well, just
people
everything
together
They had to get
and-
but
everything in
isn't that
yeah.
interesting though?
Yeah.
Because
In place.
you realize, like for instance, when the rapture happens, the Antichrist isn't going to like take over the next day.
No.
Things take time. There's a process to everything, and so there has to be a period of time between the rapture and the start, really, of the tribulation. But again, we're getting to the end right now, where we are on the timeline. We're getting to like the window is closing. Well, we'll call it a door because it's a door. It's not a window. Jesus is the door. John saw the door standing open. Come up here. That's the rapture. But that door is open. But I think it's closing just based on all the patterns in the timeline. I think it's closing pretty soon. And any day now, the Father is going to say, "Son, go get your bride." And that's us. We're the Leah bride. There's another bride. People forget that. There's two brides. Jacob had two brides, not just one. So there's Leah and then there's Rachel. And this stuff that I've been wanting to start writing about but haven't had time, Rachel, Psalm 45 plugs into this. I think I wrote some of them down. I think Psalm 93 plugs into this. There's so many things that plugs into this. Did I say it right? That plugs in? Yeah.
What?
Now then you were counting, so I thought you were gonna say something.
Well, it's 10 months. There's the number 10 again.
Yeah.
From May to March. I had to make sure I was counting right.
Yeah.
That's
So-
interesting because in Genesis there's that one when the water finally started to recede, it was 10 months.
Hmm.
There's got a lot of stuff in
Yeah,
Genesis about
yeah.
10, 5s and 10s.
Well, it's full. Yeah. Well, here's another one, and I'll talk about when I finish this study, the part 3. But some notes that I jotted down here is when you look at when Jesus went to Bethany before his crucifixion, and Mary uses the it wasn't myrrh. What was it? Hold on. Did I write it down? She anointed. I guess it doesn't matter. It wasn't myrrh this time, but she anointed his feet, and then
Yeah.
with her hair, right? And it tells us how much that was worth, because Judas was ticked off about it.
Yeah.
And so there's a number. It gives us 300. So it was worth 300 denarii. And then you go, and then Jesus
What?
says that 300 denarii worth of oil was saved for the day of his burial. And then you go through the Old Testament, you say, okay, so Samson, he took 300 foxes and lit their tails on fire, okay, which created destruction. Gideon used 300 men to come against thousands and thousands, okay.
Interesting.
300, let's see, 300 silver shekels, I think. Benjamin was given more than the others. He was given 300 shekels. He was the last of the patriarchs of Israel, was Benjamin, so it kind of equates to the end. And the foxes and the 300 men relate to consummation and destruction. So you can see, like, within the number 300, you've got the end.
Yeah.
Okay, because remember we did a timeline before also of all the patriarchs and how they fall. Well, Benjamin's the last one. And so that's the end, and also consummation, destruction, burial. Let's see. 300, oh, here's another one. Oh my goodness. So 300 in their alphabet is the shin, which looks like a W. Okay, it has 3 posts, 3 in 1. Like
Yeah.
it also the shin is what they put on their doorpost in Israel, right? It represents God, and then God said in His Word that He put His name on Jerusalem, and if you look at Israel or Jerusalem from an overhead view, it makes a shin. The 3 valleys, how they do, it looks like the letter shin in Hebrew. So he literally put his name on shin. Also in Hebrew is like teeth. It's like a chewing action, I think, is like what it represents. It also means 3 in 1, shalom, protection. Anything that starts with a like El Shaddai. It's just like there's so many interconnections. Like I don't even know which one to follow. It's like there's just like all these different forks in the road.
Interesting.
I also looked up. So if Jesus was crucified and resurrected 33, so that'd be 193 years ago. Well, the number 193 or 1993, did I say that right? Not 193. 1,993 years ago. 7 years shy of 2,000 years, okay? If that's true, there is no number 1,993 in the Bible, except for the 1,993rd verse in the Bible is Exodus 33:23, which is where God takes Moses and puts him in the cleft of the rock. You can't make
That's-
this stuff up.
That's
Wow.
so cool.
Yeah. What else can you say?
Yeah.
It's the
That's
last
amazing.
verse of that chapter. Those last few verses of that chapter. It's chapter 33, Exodus 33, I believe. It's where God takes him and puts him in the cleft of the rock, and then it says that he passed by, he departed, but he didn't see his face. He only saw him from the back. Well, I believe that at the rapture of the world, well, where was I? So the last verse of that chapter happens to be the 1993rd verse of the Torah, and it's specifically about Moses being raptured over and put in the cleft of the rock, and then you can see that exact same like context in chapter 2 of Song of Songs. The dove is in the cleft of the rock. In the springtime.
Oh.
Yeah, literally in the springtime.
What?
When the flowers are blooming, and see, doves, this is beautiful, doves only come to Israel in the springtime. They're migratory there, and they're only there in the clefts of the rocks in the springtime, and then they move on. Think about Psalm 124. As a bird escapes from the pages, okay? Think about it's all there. Think about Luke 21:34 through 36. Again, Jesus says, don't get caught in that trap.
Yeah.
The bird trap. It's all interconnected. We're the doves that are going to be placed in the cleft of the rock, the way Moses was in Exodus 33, and that equates to the 1993rd verse of the Torah. That's this year. We're still in that year. We haven't moved out of that yet. So crazy, huh?
Yes.
But I think we're really
Interesting.
close. I do think we're going to get through Christmas, and I do think that we're going to see the war ramp up again. Hamas, Iran, they're not done.
No.
They're just licking their wounds a little bit and rearming is what they're doing, and that was their plan all along.
Yeah.
And so what are they going to do? They're going to come back. Think about, and I've mentioned this before, but think about this from Iran's perspective. They know they can't touch Israel with missiles. So what are they going to do? It's got to be a land invasion. The only way that they can make this work to take over Israel and wipe them off the map as they want to is to get all of their Arab allies together. And isn't it interesting? Saudi Arabia isn't one of their allies. And they're not mentioned in Ezekiel 38. Okay? But if you take all of, they're not one of the invading neighbors, basically, or invading countries. If you take all of that together, they know they can't conquer Israel just through throwing missiles at them. It's not going to work. Israel's got too much technology. They're going to have to come down and invade Israel on land with people. Yeah. That's the only way it's going to happen. And they got the numbers. Israel's surrounded by 22 much larger nations that are all Arab. And what do they got? 9 million people in Israel? And maybe they have a little more, but I think there's 2 million Muslims that live in Israel. Wow. Yeah, so when you talk about Israel,
many people that live there?
Yeah.
Wow.
I think there's only like 15 million Jews in the world. So, like in the entire world.
Oh, dang.
Because Satan's been whittling them down. Every time they get some numbers, he, like the, Auschwitz and stuff like that, he whittles them down. So, But, yeah, I think just thinking logically, they know that Israel's technology is beyond what they can overcome. They have to go at this through land. Well, they've pretty much created a land bridge through Syria now. And you've got Lebanon, you got Hezbollah still ruling, basically. What do you think in Lebanon? Mm-hmm. Israel's telling Lebanon, hey, you got to get Hezbollah out of there, but they don't seem that willing to do it. The attack from the north, I think, it's open up. Like Lebanon and Syria right there. Syria's a mess.
Yeah.
So who knows what's going on in Syria, really? Could they be amassing troops? I'm sure there's satellites watching and stuff like that, but it's coming. We know from the Bible it's coming. It's just a matter of figuring out when it's coming. But again, I think we're already in it. It's just a matter of when this is over with. And even the rabbis that I've been listening to, they believe that October 7th started the end, and that the Mashiach will rise at the end of this conflict. They're waiting for it. They know that the end of this particular conflict that they're going through right now is where the Mashiach is going to rise from. And that's what I've been saying too.
Interesting.
So, yeah, we're right here. Jesus wanted us to know the season, and we know the season. We're in it. For me, it can't come soon enough. I'd like to just be with the Lord and move on into our next, I'll just call it chapter of eternity, because this is just toil and trouble. But, but God's will be done, and, as long as we're here, we still have a mission. So, this week, your mission, if you choose to accept it, is, I have no idea because I haven't put anything together. Okay. So this week, your mission, if you choose to accept it, is to remember your, what did we call it? Your rapture box bin.
Oh, yes.
We had a name for it. You can make up your own
Left
name.
behind box.
Yeah.
Or something.
Whatever we called it. Don't forget to keep updating it. Go on Amazon or whatever, get you some tracks, put them in there, some things that spell it out simply. Buy my book, put my book in there because it's got the whole timeline, and put a little note in there on, what is it, chapter, I should know this, I haven't read my book in a while. What is it, chapter 38 or 39?
38 one, that is your overall view of the book.
Hold on.
No.
Yeah, so it's 39, chapter 39, or 40. No, okay. At the end of my book, there's a timeline, okay? So we have to understand, we know now that from Psalm 124, Psalm 125, in the pattern hasn't happened yet, okay? Psalm 124 is the end of the war. Psalm 125 is the beginning of the tribulation. Psalm 76 is the end of the war. Psalm 77 is the beginning of the tribulation period, okay? That's where he put the pause, because clearly he did. And then we've talked about last week, there are several verses in the Bible that if we really want, the reality is this, okay, I'm just going to speak for myself. I saw those verses, I knew about those verses, that basically kind of allude to the fact, we got the virgins, the 10 virgins, and 5 and 5, and Matthew 25, also 2 Peter chapter 3, where it looks like God could put the brakes on things for a little bit and create a pause, but I didn't want to believe that. So,
Me neither.
That's just, my nature is, oh no, Lord, you're not going to do that to us. But he did. But it's for his glory and for more people to be welcomed in, and that's our job. So, but failing that, okay, the people that we can't reach, once we're out of here, which still sounds crazy when you say that, it's like people are going to think these people are nuts. Like they think just going to disappear one day.
Yep.
Well, yeah, just like Moses, God took him and moved him into the cleft of the rock, or Philip was, out of there, and Elijah, and so on, Jesus. So, yeah, one day we're going to be, however that really looks, we don't know. I envision it one way, but I could be totally wrong. But we are going to be out of here, and what's going to be left behind are a lot of confused people wondering what happened. Well, that's what your box is for. For me, I have a bin. I keep it under this table, and in fact, it's right here. And I try to keep updating that, so every week that we do one of these, I print out what we talked about, and I put it in there. And any tracks or books or whatever that I pick up, that's where I keep them. And so one day I'm guessing that people are going to come rummaging through here and they're going to find it and they're going to be like, oh, now it makes sense. It wasn't aliens. They knew that was going to be the narrative. They knew we were going to be deceived by all of this. I'm pretty sure it's going to be the alien narrative. They're establishing that right now. They're setting all that up. So anyway, what else do I want to say? I always want to say thank you. I realize that you could spend your time doing something else. So if you have watched this far, you are one of the crazies like us. But I appreciate that. Thank you for watching. Please hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't. We don't have a lot of subscribers because we're probably just crazy. But and there are people that I know that are praying for this ministry. I always appreciate that very much. And I'm still praying for lots of people that have written to say, hey, you know, will you pray for my sons or my daughters, or, you know, lots of that. So I'm praying for them. And there are links in the description if you want to give to help this ministry. There are links for PayPal and Cash App, I believe it is. And there are links to the book. And there are also links to lots of free material. I have some good friends out there, friends of the ministry, that have put together website, and a lot of this is on there. And it's usually up to me to kind of send them information to update it. And I'm not the best at that, but I try. Because, you know, my life's always going in 15 different directions. So anyway, that's that. That was this week. Sorry I didn't really have anything formal to put together, but I think it was fun anyway. And I'll have to figure out how to edit this because we talked about a lot of stupid stuff too in between a few things that actually made sense. But so anyway, God bless you. Take care. Happy Thanksgiving, even though it's a day or so late by the time you see this. And God bless.